Books by the foot. Let's get into it.
You all right?
Oh my God.
Hey, Jim.
Levi, you can just get out of here.
Get the hell out of here, idiot.
What did I do?
Raven, said Ridley slowly. Raven the Ice King, you're saying. An infinite time. Why not? Ever known a winter like this? This early? This bad? You said it yourself. It's the winter that makes him so terrible. And there's no better place to start it than here. Sathby. This is Sathby, damn it. Don't you see? Sather by, the town of black magic. So the first thing I read this week was The Ice King by Michael Scott, Rohan, and Alan Scott. This is a later edition published around the year 2000, but the first editions of this book, they just had the byline by Michael Scott. I don't know why he was using just his first and middle name, or why the other author, Alan Scott, wasn't listed on the first editions of this book. I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. It starts off with an archaeological dig in Great Britain, where they uncover a Viking ship and a Viking temple. Soon after that, the town they're in is plagued by just vicious, brutal murders. I mean, people and animals just completely eviscerated. And it follows the lead of the archaeological dig, a man named Hal Hansen, and the chief inspector of the village, an Inspector Ridley, as they go around trying to put the pieces together of what exactly is happening and how is it related to this archaeological dig. And getting into spoilers, it turns out the Viking ship was the failed funeral pyre of an ancient Viking called Raven the Ice King. The backstory is that this king was involved in a ritual sacrifice that went wrong, and so they tried to bury him at sea in a Viking fashion by burning him alive on a ship as it sailed off into the ocean, but they failed in some capacity, so the ship got submerged and sunk in the bottom of this river where they couldn't get at it anymore. And now 1,000 years later, this Ice King, he rises from the dead as a creature called a Draugr, which explained in here is something akin to a vampire, except instead of drinking blood, they just viciously attack the loved ones of whoever they were in the previous life and eviscerate them, destroy them, tear them limb from limb, just in general cause chaos and destruction wherever they go. This particular one, the Ice King here, he has a grander motive than just simple murders and things like that. He is trying to bring about Ragnarok by instituting an everlasting winter, which would be the prelude to the Viking Ragnarok. In Chapter 1, the opening scenes, the point of view character for Chapter 1 is a character named Tom Latimer, who is an Australian TV reporter. Tom Latimer does not return to the book until Chapter 7. It makes sense in the opening chapter because it's presented as a bunch of people watching a news broadcast that they had all been involved in filming, both the TV reporter and the digging crew for the archaeological site, sitting around the headquarters of the archaeological site watching this news presentation. However, why should we get that information from the point of view of a character who is not involved with the story, again, until late in the book, and even then his involvement isn't too great? That chapter could have been served better by telling it from the point of view of some of the characters that are throughout. And that brings me to another point. The hero of the story, the Professor Hal Hansen, he is about as interesting as a painted brick wall. He could be a really interesting character, but he just kind of suffers from that syndrome that a lot of protagonists in books suffer from, is that the more interesting people are the side characters and the sundry characters surrounding them. The actual protagonist of the book isn't given a lot of personality to themselves. There are 4 characters in here that I think would have been more well-suited to being the point of view characters as members of the dig crew. Characters, I'll just spell out their names, it's Prue, it's Neville, it's Harry, and it's Paul. And the book could have benefited from being told from their point of view instead of the point of view of Hal, because Hal just does not have a lot of character to shine through, and his dynamics with other characters is very, very mild and very reserved. There's not a lot of emotion or a lot of tension in the way he interacts with the rest of the cast, whereas the members of the dig crew, they're very opinionated. They have a lot of drive to get things done. They bounce off each other really well in the sort of way as you bounce off your friends and grate against your friends' nerves. Not animosity, but friendly tension as you're trying to get a job done. The book is still good. I just wish that it had been told from the point of view of another character, someone who was more compelling than the point of view character we were usually stuck with. I mean, there's a chapter in here where the character Paul is eating alone in a diner, and then a ne'er-do-well member of the dig crew comes in with sort of this motorcycle gang that he's formed since getting into England, and their interaction throughout the entire chapter is just, it's tense, it's unsettling. I was at every page worried that something was going to happen to Paul. The character Paul, he wasn't doing anything outrageous, but he was just more interesting to read what he was doing and how he was thinking about it than from the point of view of Hal. And even the other characters in here, there's a scene early on where Prue, Neville, and Harry hear noises in the headquarters of the dig site, and they have to go investigate. And those three bouncing off each other, tiptoeing down the steps in the middle of the night like it's some sort of Scooby-Doo episode. That was way more interesting than watching Hal and Ridley look at broken shards of glass at a museum after a break-in. Just all sorts of stuff like that. Now, the information gained at the museum was necessary, and it came back later in the book, the things that were stolen from the museum. It could have been more compelling if the point of view characters were more compelling in that scene. Overall, like I say, I had that one gripe with it, but I did enjoy the book. For some reason, it makes me think of John Carpenter's The Thing, even though there's not really any great similarities plot-wise between that movie and this book, other than this one takes place in the snow. And as any rational person knows, the snow and ice and winter are the best settings for horror. It's horrifying in and of itself when the very elements want to kill you. This book was 5/8 wide and it weighed 5 ounces. I wrote a book. Buy it.
Who let the lemon head into the room? You are a waste of life, and you should...
Like and subscribe.
Is what I want to say, but I won't.
And here we have Sword of Sorcery, Volume 1, Amethyst, published by DC Comics. This was published around 2012. I don't know the year exactly, but around 2012 during the New 52 initiative by DC Comics. I did not have great expectations going in, and I wasn't necessarily disappointed, but when you open up a new comic book and the very first page is high school drama, it makes me reassess what exactly I'm going to be getting into. That's what we have. We have a cover and a back cover that promise action and adventure and sword and sorcery type things, and it opens with a high school and high school drama. But once we get past all of that, it's about a girl named Amy, who we found out her real given name is Amaya. She turns 17, and on the night she turns 17, her mother takes out this huge purple crystal from a hiding spot in their trailer. They go off into the woods and they activate it, and it turns out it's a portal to another planet where this girl Amy and her mother are royalty. So they get there, they're immediately attacked by the girl's aunt, because in the past the mother and the aunt got into a fight, forcing the mother to have to flee with her daughter to Earth, our Earth, and just kind of waited out until the girl was of an age where she could inherit some of the magical powers that are hereditary to her royal family line. The royalty of this planet is sort of divided into different houses, like House Amethyst, House Onyx. This book, they didn't know exactly what they wanted it to be when they went into it, because there's elements of action adventure, but it's not really there. There's elements of a sort of young adult drama, but it's not really there. It just deals in a lot of big general tropes without getting into any necessary detail to make that work. When you have a book and the 3 most important characters in it are all pretty much identical looking blonde women in matching purple outfits, that is a recipe for confusion. Like to say, the protagonist Amy, her mother, and her aunt are all blondes wearing matching purple outfits and swords. And I cannot tell you how many times going through this, as I was reading, I would get confused as to who I was looking at on the page and where they were supposed to be, because at a glance, they look identical. I mean, if you read a Superman comic, for example, Superman looks entirely different from Jimmy Olsen, from Perry White, from Batman or Robin or whoever happens to be in the issue. You look at a page and you instantly know where Superman is at, which is a problem that this book has by making the three most important characters in the story pretty much look like triplets. And that said, even with those criticisms, I did not hate this book. I actually enjoyed it pretty well once I got a feel for what it was going to be. They're not taking any big swings, any big chances with this story, but it is just a fun sort of action adventure story, very light reading that you don't have to take too seriously. You just kind of like, pick it up and turn your brain off type of stuff. It reminded me a little bit of the Flash Gordon series that was published by Dynamite along this time. Though Flash Gordon is around 2012, is leagues away better than this is. It still had enough of that action adventure spirit to it to remind me of Flash Gordon while I was reading this. And generally, it's not a good idea to be reminded of a better story when you have the story you're reading in your hands, but that's just the way it is. So this story was a half an inch across and weighed 20 1/2 ounces, though it will not be included on the Books by the Foot total because this is not a book I own. This is a book I rented from the library, so it will not be included in the overall Books by the Foot total. So we started off with 35 feet 10 3/4 inches of unread books on my shelf, and at the end, after reading The Ice King, we have 35 feet 10 1/4 inches of unread books on my shelf. But we have to look at some recent acquisitions and reevaluate our total. First up was Assault on the Gods, coming in at 1/2 inch. I saw a YouTube channel, Pulp Mortem, talking about this book recently, and I looked up the cover and I just had to have it. The cover is absolutely gorgeous, and listen to this tagline. It sounds like something out of a 1970s action movie. She came to defy the gods and set free a planet in chains. So I'm excited to get into that. It looks interesting. The blurb is interesting, the back cover. So next was the year's best fantasy and horror, 3rd edition, published in 1990. This was 1 inch and 5/8 inches across. I'm crazy about these anthologies and short story collections. I just can't get enough of them. Like I say, the fantasy I enjoy, but it's kind of hit or miss most of the time for me. I'm really interested in what they included on the horror list, because I also have a couple of books of year's best horror edited by Carl Edward Wagner. And though I don't think I have that one for the year 1990, I would be interested to see how they compare one to the other and what they consider the best and what exactly they're looking for in a horror story between the two publications. So with those two books added, we went from 35 feet 10 1/4 inches to 36 feet and 1/2 inches. Every single video I make, the shelf just keeps getting longer. But I'm going to make a serious dent in that in the next couple of weeks, because I'm not buying any more books, I think, for the rest of the month, and probably the rest of next month, and however long I can hold out and not get any more. The total width of books read for this week is 1 1/8 inch, making the overall total for Books by the Foot 4 1/4 inches. The weight of the books read was 1.6 pounds, making the overall total for Books by the Foot 3.2 pounds of books read. And all right, that's all I have to say for now. Goodbye.
All right, Levi, you can stick around for that one.
Holy crap.